Right, Michael, we are live.
Yeah.
We are live. So welcome everyone who has hopefully been waiting for today's Tuesday talk with Michael McEwan. We did have some technical problems there, which meant that we've started a few minutes late. So hopefully we haven't lost you. And if we have lost you, then you're watching it now, then welcome back. So today's Tuesday talk is Michael McEwan, one of our regular Tuesday talkers. And Michael, you're going to talk today about the 25th anniversary of the Disability Discrimination Act, aren't you?
Yeah, 25 years. It was actually last week on the 8th of November, but because we're doing it a bit later, I thought, well, okay, I'll just do it today and stuff here.
Yeah, okay, that's good. So we have got some viewers, thankfully, and they've stuck with us despite our technical issues. So I'm going to leave you, Michael, and I'll be back in about whenever you're finished in about 25 minutes to half an hour.
Yeah, that's fine.
Right, great to see you.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for waiting about there. We had a couple of technical issues there. But welcome to my Tuesday Talks, as it says, Tuesday Talks. My name is Michael McEwan, and I'll be here for the next 25 to half an hour and every week I speak about something different. So this week I'm going to speak about the 25th anniversary of the Disability Discrimination Act. Believe it or not, 25 years has gone past, and when I was doing some research about doing this today, I couldn't believe it was 25 years back in 95. I don't look 25 years old. I wish I was, Alaska, but so that was when the Discrimination Act came in 1995, and I'm going to tell you a bit about the Discrimination Act and why it's not really working at the moment in terms of people with a disability getting into employment and access to buildings. So first off, what is discrimination? Discrimination is the barriers that put in people's way of disability, and we're trying to remove the barriers so it makes people's lives a bit easier. So discrimination is when you can't get access to a building, or you have got a poor employer that doesn't understand the word disability and how they would go about it in a way. The two themes of discrimination that I'm going to speak about today is education and employment, because they are two big barriers to people with a disability today. There's other discrimination out there, like transport as well, because you automatically can't go out to a train station or whatever, because that's not the access to the station is a bit poor. So I'm going to touch upon that in my general talk. I was just giving you a flavour of what I'm going to talk about. If you want to comment on whatever I'm saying, please do so below in the oil if you've got any questions or any points or whatever that I can help you with it as well. So as I said, discrimination is when people experience unfair critique because of their disability around the work placement or access to a venue and stuff like that. And these things are quite common. You wouldn't imagine we would be still speaking about the Discrimination Act and the way it should be used, and people still doesn't know about the Act. So I would say, first of all, the Discrimination Act passed in 95 from the Houses of Parliament was something good, because we have never had like a kind of like Discrimination Act before for disabled people in Scotland and also the UK as well. So that was good, that as the MPs kind of passed it in the Houses of Parliament. There's actually six pieces of discrimination against disabled people. The first of them would be directed criticism of people with a disability in the workplace as well. And one of our biggest barriers, and a lot of people's biggest barriers today, is employment to people with a disability. I'm going to touch upon that now, because if we look at the stats of 2020, the amount of people as employment is, well, first of all, sorry, 9 out of 10 people in the population has got jobs. So that I'm talking about the population. I'm talking about people with a non-disability. But for people with a disability, it's 1 in 4. Yeah, that's right. Only 1 in 4 people with a learning disability is working. Now that's discrimination right there, because I'm sure I know of, and a lot of people watching this video saw that today we see a lot of talented individuals that want to work but not given the chance to work because of the employer, because the employer would actually use different excuses to not employ somebody with a disability, even though that they're capable of doing the job. But the employers always makes things up, like put barriers in the way that, we can't take Mike on because it's health and safety, and like the stairs in here, and Michael can't walk up the stairs or whatever, or people in wheelchairs, they might be discriminated against access to venues. And so that kind of leads me on to my next topic that I wanted to speak about: venues. When you go into Glasgow, well, not at the moment because everybody's in lockdown, but when you went into Glasgow and you went for a night out with your pals or your partner or your wife or your husband or whoever, you might find that access to the venue is not accessible. I'm talking about people with mobility issues and people in wheelchairs. It's not accessible. And also the bathrooms are basically down the stairs. Now that's hard enough to go to the bathroom. Anybody go walking down the stairs. But for people with mobility issues, it's 10 times more harder. And there's a disabled toilet up the stairs that people can go to. But, that's kind of like discrimination right there, when when the buildings and access is not accessible to everyone. I remember doing a kind of story for the, I was working on a story a couple of years ago, and it was for the BBC, and it was about a boy, and I won't mention his name. This boy was going out to a nightclub in Glasgow on a Saturday night, and the bouncers assumed that he was drunk because he was, unskegging his feet and quite bad at communicating. So him and his girlfriend went out on the Saturday night, and the bouncers gigging them in, because the bouncers thought, well, this guy's drunk, we're not going to let him in. But that wasn't the case at all. The case was the boy was disabled and he was white bag at walking, it's white bag at talking. Eventually he got in, but that wasn't the point. And it took them about 20 minutes for the bouncers for his girlfriend to explain to the bouncers that this boy had quite a few issues when it comes to walking and talking. He eventually got in, but that wasn't the point, because you're free to do whatever you want when you want, and to me that's like discrimination right there. So that boy had to then go back to the care provider, and the care provider had to make an ID card up, an ID card that you carry about to say that I'm not drunk, it's my disability. Now, to me, everybody's got a different opinion about this, but to me, it's quite sad how you've got to go to that level to make an ID card up just to say that I'm not drunk, I have got a disability. And to me, I think that it knocks people's confidence about going out as well. And I would say as well that if you're discriminated once or twice, you won't go back, because that will put you off by going out. And that's discrimination right there, kind of thing, if you're not letting people into buildings. And a couple of years ago, there was a boy going into a nightclub in Glasgow, and he was a wheelchair user. Not a wheelchair user, in a wheelchair. I don't like that word, wheelchair user. And I was going into a venue, and I was getting the stairs, and again, like the bouncer's gigging let him in. But eventually, that was a high case profile that he went to court and all that. So that was on the news a few years ago. So that's like, when I'm talking about discrimination, that's really discrimination right there to buildings and whatever. You shouldn't be any different from the next person. When I was doing my last Tuesday talks, I think it was last month, or maybe the month before then, I was speaking about labels, and you don't want to stick a label on people about, I'm disabled and all that kind of thing. And discrimination does come into it about a bit, because if I went out the house and now, I wouldn't go about the houses saying, or different places to say, I have got a disability, and and stuff like that. We just want life to be straightforward, and we want it to be helpful for a lot of people in society. So why I'm speaking about this today is to highlight this issue and to raise awareness of the kind of like Discrimination Act being 25 years old. And usually when you celebrate something, that's it, you celebrate something. But okay, we've actually maybe came a small way in a short space of time in terms of everything that I've spoke about so far, like employment. But there's still really a long way to go. And I think when we're sitting here in the year 2020, people should be embarrassed about not letting people have, a big percentage of people with a disability that's not working, that is capable of working. I know a lot of people, and I'm sure you do. Well, I say you, but only if you're still watching that enough. If you're still that they want to work but not get given the chance, and really that's discrimination there. And when we celebrate things like that, we say that it's been a good 25 years. Let's look forward to the next 25 years and stuff. But I've been speaking to a lot of people with a disability, and they felt as though that there's still a long way to go in terms of getting more people into society, getting more people into jobs. I mean, it's not all about jobs. Jobs help you, but really there's other skills that can lead you on the way as well. Kind of like people telling you what to do instead of saying, I'm Michael, I can speak up for myself. Okay, I might have a disability, but so what? It's my life. I can do what I want. Basically, it's my life, my way, or whatever. I know that. And if I want to move out the house and get a house by myself, that's kind of okay. I've heard of some councils discriminating against people with a disability. And all that. And I'm not just speaking about Glasgow, I'm speaking about kind of like all over Scotland, because usually when you go to these kind of like, usually when you go to events all over Scotland, back in the day when you're like out, we used to actually speak about discrimination in a way that we don't use the word discrimination, but we use the word barriers to getting people into society as well. So, the act there was supposed to remove the barriers for people with a disability. But sadly, and I don't like to say this, but the barriers are still there for disabled people. And I hope you would agree with me that when you're watching this or watching it back later or whatever, the barriers are still there. And I don't know how we're going to get around this, these kind of issues. Yes, we can campaign and we can lobby, but sometimes a lot of people get sick of it, because usually, why should we be any different to the person without a disability or a mental health issue, and also that there's also an excuse for people with employers and stuff. So the thing I'm worried about now is when we do go back to a new normal, what I'm hoping they would be a new normal after this, because they really can't go back to the old way wasn't working. Then people should be at the heart of their communities and have a say so in what they want to do. And I think employers, my personal opinion, but I think employers would have a good excuse not to employ people with a disability. Yes, I know they're paying people off because of the coronavirus, but I think employers would say, well, because of the coronavirus, But my argument with that is, what have you been saying for years? Because you've been saying that you can't employ people with a disability, yet when a pandemic comes along, then employers say, right, okay, I'm using that as a kind of excuse. They won't come out and say it's an excuse, but they will say it's because of the coronavirus, and that's discrimination right there. The other thing is also discrimination. I can sit here all night and all of tomorrow if you want, but I'm sure you don't want me to speak all the time. But the other thing is I wanted to speak about was transport. Now, transport is still a big issue, and it's the same with employment. It's never really been moved anywhere quick, pardon the pun. I'm talking about train stations and all that, because when you look at a train station, it's not very accessible to people with disabilities. Now, I'm not talking about scanning there, buying your ticket and all that. I'm talking about the entrance to the station. That's not really, the access is kind of like terrible for people with a disability. But when you actually get into the station, when you go to the ticket machine, most people can't buy a ticket because obviously the ticket machine is too high, and you usually find people with mobility issues, they can't reach that far. And obviously the other barrier to that is people with a disability, when they're going to Glasgow, Edinburgh, wherever you're going, the stations are not really manned. So there's no one there to put the ramp out for you. And I've heard of some stories as well that people's actually been put on the wrong train to go home. So if they were going to Kilmarnock, they would be put on the Ayr or Paisley line and all that. And then when you're on the train and the door shut, that's you. So there's definitely discrimination there, because I'm doing work around that through my kind of like disability group at the moment. We're trying to get an accessible station. And I think like there's quite a lot of stations kind of built up in Victorian times. But my argument with that was disabled people not about in Victorian times as well. So that's clearly discrimination there. If you don't, if there's no any tools there for you to go out to the station, or I saw Matthew putting up a comment there about buses as well. Access to buses as well, and as well as that, it's like more things that when you speak about discrimination, the more things really come out, and the accessible toilets. When we talk about accessible toilets, it's all right being on the train, but you might not access the toilets. There's an organisation called PAMIS, and they work on a big campaign called Changing Places Toilets. Now, I'm not sure how many of that they've got so far. And that's discrimination right there, because usually when people's in wheelchairs or buggies or whatever, and they want to use the toilets, well, the toilets are so wee that they can't get in. And that's discrimination right there. I'm not trying to paint a bad picture by me here. I'm just telling you the way it is about people with a disability and discrimination. So when I heard that it was the 25th anniversary of Discrimination Act, and obviously it was last week, on Sunday, then obviously it's went past, and this is Tuesday. That's why it's called Tuesday Talks. But I thought I would speak to you about that because it is a big issue. Now, the BBC was doing a lot of work around that. The BBC had a lot of programmes on the telly and the radio to highlight about the Discrimination Act as well. So these are kind of some of the barriers. That's not all the barriers getting put in people's way. And then when you talk about housing as well, there's not a lot of accessible housing getting built in Paisley, where I'm from, or other parts of Scotland and the UK. I know it's a big kind of like debate at the moment, and there's not any kind of like accessible housing kind of built, and that's discrimination like there. So if I can really go back to what I was saying quickly about the employment aspect, I mean, I feel as though if we're still doing Tuesday Talks in 25 years, I don't really want to speak about these kind of issues. Now, if I can stop there, and Alice is making a point that people with a disability still want for skill. Yeah, so all the buses are not accessible for people with disabilities, because obviously the buses has to be lowered down and stuff for people to go on. Matthew is making a comment saying, in the north of Ireland at times they are still using high coaches for public transport rather than lower buses to allow for mobility issues in 2020. So yeah, I mean, that's Matthew over in Ireland, but I think people are still facing like the same kind of barriers in a way. But what I was saying was, even though it's good to celebrate the Discrimination Act and speak about it on Tuesday Talks or whatever that we do, or different TV programs, I would hate to come back in another 5 years' time, to maybe 25 years' time, to speak about the same issues. And we need to really do something about this, and we need to lobby governments and local councillors as well, because we, as I always say to people with a disability, nobody's experts, but we are kind of experts in a kind of way, because we're living with it day to day. Now, discrimination can affect you in all different ways in terms of, transport, housing, jobs. I've not even touched upon education, because I think there's still discrimination out there, and the kind of way that happened to me in a previous life, that people are trying to tell me what to do. Michael, you can't do this course, but however, I went away and done it. I went behind my tutor's back and I got on the course that I wanted to. I got all of qualifications that I needed. So I think that's discrimination right there. And you wouldn't expect some get college or some get school or whatever to discriminate against you. You would think they would be supporting you, but yeah, I mean, there's lots of things getting put in people's way, whether it's barriers, or in this case, whether we're speaking about discrimination in all walks of life. A lot of people are discriminated against in this world. Yes, I accept that, but I think people with a disability is always being discriminated against, and we need to change that, and we need to maybe speak up for ourselves a bit better than, well, I was going to say speak up better than what we are doing, but we are doing it. But the sad reality is nobody's kind of listening to us, and that needs to really change if we want to progress in the society. Now, the last thing I would say is, because of the coronavirus has hit, and I wouldn't imagine for 1 minute it was going to be 6 or 7 months. I thought, well, everybody's going to go back to work in a few months' time, but sadly that's not the case. We've got a chance. I mean, we as in me, you guys watching it and Control Scotland and different organisations, we've got a chance now to re-evaluate what we're doing, and maybe, I was going to say, put people with a disability at the forefront, but in Control and all that, different organisations are doing that. But people outside this kind of disability bubble, we want to get on board to get more people into work, to get more accessible transport for people with a disability. So these are the kind of things that I wanted to speak to you about today, and I hope that makes sense. You can leave your comments or questions, or maybe if you're watching it later, you can still leave your comments as well. So yeah.
Sorry. Hi, Michael.
Hi.
Hiya. Yeah. So are you hopeful? Are you hopeful about the next few years?
Yeah. I'm well. I suppose I've got to say I'm hopeful, Keith. But I know by working with you for years, and whether it was in control or different aspects of life, and we've always wanted change, but I don't think change is happening quickly enough.
Yeah.
And when I say that, I mean like employment and stuff like that, because that shouldn't really be a barrier. And you've heard me talking about this before, Keith, and I always say that you should look at the person, what they're capable of, not like their kind of disability. But sadly, in reality, that doesn't really work, because if you know that people with employers look at the person with a disability first before they look at the person of what they're capable of.
Okay. But I know one of the points you were also making was that although this has been a horrendous time for lots of people, and a time that nobody could have ever imagined with the virus, there is also now that opportunity that when we eventually do come out of this, that we come back to something that we plan to come back to something that was better than what was there before, in terms of accessibility, in terms of equal opportunities, in terms of people's access to live the life that they want.
Yeah. I mean, I saw you saying this on webinar Wednesday, and I asked about the new normal, and we want to go to the new normal. We can't really afford to go back in terms of like people not getting the right support, like self-directed support, because there's different areas in Scotland that, people get different opinions on self-directed support, and maybe that's another conversation for another day. But I do feel as though that, there's just so many barriers get put in people's way, and and frustrating sometimes, and it must be frustrating for you as working with Incontrol Scotland, and working with different charities as well, because as well as working with Keith, I work with a lot of different people, and a lot of different charities want to support people and all that, and the support's there, but it's like you want really other people to understand like the barriers that it's put in people's way, and start to
Okay. Yeah. So we're getting a few comments in there, Michael, but we are probably at the end of our time for this Tuesday talk. So thanks for sharing those thoughts and reflections about the Disability Discrimination Act, the impact of that, the things that we've still got to do, and looking forward to the future. You'll be back on a Tuesday talk. You'll be back on a Tuesday talk on the second Tuesday of December.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Which is something, I think it's like I'm not sure what it is.
I'm not sure either.
Anyway, the second Tuesday of December, you'll be back doing your Christmas special Tuesday talk in the same time.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Keith. Bye.